This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So, before starting with the session, just wanted to let you know this CPBA is the full form is Certified Pega Business Architect, right? So, if do you have any idea about what Pega is or anything about Pega?
Yeah,
Anyone?
yeah. Arab, I think we missed your introduction. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So I am Marnab and I am currently working with Capgemini and I have around 10 years of experience in the business analyst domain and currently working as a Pega business architect and I'm based out of Kolkata.
Oh, great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So do anyone of you have any idea or have any knowledge about what Pega is and how things are, or what actually Pega is in the industry? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, it's a CRM like Salesforce, right?
It's not entirely a CRM like Salesforce, but yeah, partly it's correct. It's a BPM tool, right? It's a model-driven BPM application tool. It's a low-code, no-code model-driven development tool, and it enables business users to work together in hand with the IT to configure applications. So a lot of you have heard about, let's say, initially we used to develop applications using Java and using different tools where there are a lot of codings and complex numerous codings that were involved, right, in order to develop application. But Pega has made it simpler. I mean, when we say about low code or no code model driven development, it actually indicates using visual tools instead of writing those lengthy codes in order to develop the application, right, through guided screens or guided wizards. In the backend there are obviously codings that are implemented, and this Pega is based out on top of Java. But as a developer you don't have to write all those lengthy and all those complex codes. Rather, it's moving towards a low code environment, which helps development as well as the non-technical users to use visual tools in order to build an application quickly, right? So the CPBA while working, I mean, if anyone is trying to work or trying to let's say participate in a Pega project, or let's say an organization using Pega technology, and I mean, as a vendor they're obviously using the Pega technology and try to develop or build an application, then there are different roles that get involved in those Pega projects, right? So one of them is the business architect. So in business architects, we call them as certified Pega business architects, because you need to do a certification in order to enroll yourself in a Pega project, right? Now there are different roles also involved, like system architects, senior system architects, and those are all certified. I mean, those are different certifications. I mean, and, I mean, a guy can come in and work as a system architect or developer, right? Developers are called system architects over here, or senior developers are called senior system architects over here in Pega. So a resource can come in and work in a Pega project, but they need to ensure, I mean, vendors need to ensure that the resource has the certification done in order to continue in the Pega projects, right? Be it for business architects, or be it for system architects, and be it for any other roles. So there are different certifications involved in Pega which needs to be done. Now the industry standard, I mean, I'll just help you with the difference between a conventional business analyst and the Pega certified business architect, though it's quite similar in terms of the roles and responsibilities that need to play in their daily life in the industry. So going by the industry standard definition, if we go for a business analyst is someone who documents an organization's business processes and makes data informed recommendations for process improvement through products, services, and softwares, right? So that they are generally involved with with multiple discussions or multiple workshop sessions with the client in order to gather different requirements, then analyze those requirements, translate those requirements into let's say signed up documents, and then helping the development team and the testing team with those let's say requirements, and then also facilitating the development process, right? And also the UAT process, correct? So in practice, however, the role of business analyst is frequently limited somewhat to requirements gathering and documentation, if you notice, I mean, deeply, or notice, I mean, in a let's say a deeper way. But in other words, they function as a kind of integration layer between, or bridging the gap between business and IT, right? Accurately communicating the needs of the business in terms that IT can understand and deliver, because development team might not understand what business is actually saying. It's the duty of the business analyst to make the development team understand and bridge those gap between the business and the IT, right? They collect and translate those requirements or the business needs in order to help development team so that they can contribute and develop the final solution. Whereas the industry standard definition of business architect, on the other hand, is someone who understands the business well, the corporate strategy, and the designs the organizational structures, processes, policies, and initiatives designed to advance well-defined business objectives. I mean, it's more to cater to the business objectives and the need oriented, and the business architect is a tactician, I would say, but has a little no formal relationship with enterprise IT, right? So those are the industry wise how we portray business analyst and business architect as. Now, Pega business, how does Pega business architect role fit in, right? Within this business analyst and business architect area. So one thing, if you have any question, you can immediately, I mean, stop me and you can immediately ask me anytime. You're free to ask questions anytime.
Yeah, sure. Arnav.
Yeah. So to continue with what I was saying, how does the Pega business architect role fit in, right? So they doesn't conventionally fit within an industry standard definition of either business analyst or business architect. And that's why people find it a bit of dicey that what actually is Pega business architect role and what do we do as a Pega business architect in projects. So it's a mix and match. So like business analyst, if we refer business analyst, Pega business architects work with the organizations. Yes, they too work with the organizations, documenting their business processes, and before that, understand their existing or as is business processes, right? Then documenting, I mean, the businesses, processes, or systems, and assessing the business models for integration with technology, right? Since we are calling the term as architect, so more of techno-functional role is involved. It's not entirely functional role, right? Like documenting and understanding the technology. Also, we do have, as a Pega business architect, we do have certain technical roles to play as well, like the solution architecture and all, not from the technical part, but the flow diagram, the solution proposal, or what should be the to be solution based on the as is solution understanding. So those architecture in terms of solution that needs to be provided, right? And along with that, they need to assess the business models also for integration with technology. So there might be different technologies involved, right? Third party systems involved, or the integrations, different integrations involved, because today's let's say business in I mean actually they work in different siloed applications, right? Where there are multiple integrations involved and all. So as a business architect, it's a duty, or it's a responsibility, I would rather say, to understand those various integrations with different technologies in order to propose a solution, right? Or what could define the future of the business. A Pega business architect also supports the development of business capabilities of the enterprise in line with the corporate strategy, right? So they need to be in line with the strategy, the business strategy, or the objectives, right? So which, while also contributing meaningfully to the business strategy and plans. So it's a hybrid sort of role of the industry standard business analyst and business architect, right? So what does Pega Business Architects actually bring to the table? So today's session, I would like to highlight that what before you move into the in and out of what is Pega and what actually you need to learn, or what are the different topics or modules that need to be let's say that need to be discussed or understood before you appear for these certifications and then you move your career towards this Pega Business Architect role. I just want to first highlight about what is actually Pega Business Architect, or what does Pega Business Architect bring to the table. Then we can move into the topics which we will be learning, and we can go in details. So now I will just like to highlight that what does Pega Business Architect bring to the table. So this Pega Business Architects don't just do the usual project stuff. They are required in different phases, right? Throughout the journey, I would say. When I call journey, the journey starts not only from the development. The journey starts way, way, way ahead when we are developing or when we are proposing a solution depending on the client's requirement. When I say proposing a solution, it's not on the development front. I am saying about the pre-sales activities, right? So during the pre-sales activities, when we are trying to acquire the new client, right, business architect's role starts from there. It's not only gathering the requirements once the project comes, and gathering the requirements, analyzing them, and then documenting them, and doing the conventional stuffs, right? So during the RFI or RFP phases, I mean the request for proposal, request for information, request for query, whatever it might be, the pre-sales activities, during those phases, the Pega Business Architect's role actually starts. So that's why it's not just the usual project stuff that Pega Business Architects are involved in. They are also supporting enablement, taking users and other stakeholders on the Pega journey. So let's say a RFP comes, a proposal comes, right? A client has provided with a very high level scope that we want an application which would cater to our existing users as well as the new users in terms of loan application facilitation, or let's say digital KYC. So we as a Pega Business Architect, obviously there will be other roles like the lead system architect, or there will be technical guys as well, to say in layman word. But we as a Pega Business Architect need to ensure that the client or the stakeholders feel comfortable on the Pega journey in terms of the capabilities what we provide with Pega, and how easier will it be in terms of solutioning or in terms of application development by using the Pega technology, right? It's the job of the Pega Business Architects. Obviously, there will be supporting hands available from the vendor organization, but as far as the capability presentation, or solution approach, or how we can proceed, so that's the job of the responsibility of the business architects to
Okay.
take the stakeholders on the Pega journey. Yeah, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, quick question on that. So when you said this, right, then because for me, I mean, like, when you, let's in a layman's language, right? So
Mhm.
at the RFP level,
Correct.
then what would the system architects and senior system architects do? Because they have more technical knowledge on designing the
Right.
system than a business architect, right? So
Right.
is it not their responsibility to actually do, and how does it fall under a business architect shoulder
Okay.
in terms of solutioning?
Okay. Fine. Yeah, as I mentioned, I mean that there are different roles involved in that let's say RFP phases, right? Obviously, there are system architects, senior system architects, or the lead system architects, and there are obviously business architects or the lead business architects, I mean, involved, right? So
Mhm.
in terms of capability, like let's say when I say about capability, let's say the client's requirement is that we want to develop an application, right, which would cater to different regions or cross countries, right? So as a business analyst, you should be aware about the Pega's capability on a functional front or on a techno functional front, that okay, Pega do support or do have a situational layer cake feature. I mean, I'll come to that in details just for answering your question. So the Pega do have a situational layer cake feature which helps in building an application and catering to different region or region specific applications on top of the base layer, right? So you will be telling, or you will be promoting, or you will be defining the capabilities, how to handle that or how to develop the application depending upon the capabilities. That will be taken care by the system architects or the technical guys. Is it clear? You
Yeah,
are there to support from the functional front or the capability front, that Pega do have this feature, right? How to add or how to develop the application depending on that feature, or how that feature can be leveraged in order to develop the application, that will be taken care by the technical person.
okay, but in a real world scenario, right?
Mhm.
Uh, what is the percentage that you think a business architect would be involved at RFP level? Because I believe like once they win the RFP and then they budget for that, and that's when they recruit most of the project team members. So
In yeah.
I yeah, I mean, not I'm not saying in every scenario, right? Most of the scenarios in IT industry, that's what I've been seeing for the last 18 years. But yeah, if that is the case, yes, it would be helpful when we are involved at RFP level. But if not, how do we cope up? Like, when you join a new project, new company, and your project manager, your scrum product owner, whoever says that this is what we are going to develop, right? So, do we have a say in that in terms of the solutioning, or it is always like the system architects and the lead architects they take that?
Okay, I'll answer your question in two parts. First, regarding your question that, I mean, is it like in every RFP the business architects are involved, or why they are involved? I mean, what role do they play, right? So to answer that question first, yes, in Pega, business architects are essential and must in the RFP phase or RFI phase, because there are different ways. If you look, some clients just might want to understand that we are trying to develop an application, they are
Mhm.
deciding on which technology to use, right? There might be situations, correct, whether we will be
Correct.
using Pega, or whether you will be using Appian, or whether you will be using any open source technology in BPM, right? So to do that, there can be RFIs or RFQs, right? Request for information, just to gather certain information about the technology front, right? So in order to do that, business architects are the ones who prepare those decks to help the client understand that what are the Pega capabilities which might solve their existing problem and help them to develop an application for the future, correct, from the
Okay.
capability front. So that
Okay.
that role business architects play. Till that point there is nothing technical, so there is no question of system architects and senior system architects and whatever technical persons involved, correct. It's just
Right.
from the capability front which they answer to the client. Fine. So let's say the client is convinced about what, that they will be taking Pega technology, Pega as their technology partner, correct? And the vendor
Yeah.
will be, let's say, XYZ company. Now they are providing the company or vendor organization with a high level scope, correct?
Hmm.
Where it's pretty much high level, which is very difficult for the technical person to decipher and to understand that what is written, correct? So it's the business architects who will be conducting multiple workshop sessions or multiple meetings or multiple discussions with the client side, right? Client side SME or business users, in order to break the entire high level scope document into different story points or different flows or different cases, right? I would say not cases at this point, but different stories and flows, right? Or epics, correct?
Yeah. Similar to what BS do in breaking down
Correct,
the requirement.
correct,
Yeah.
correct,
Okay.
correct, correct. So till that point, there is no involvement directly from the technical side, correct? because the
Yes.
business architects are in multiple discussions with the clients and multiple discussions with the business and from the client to understand the epics or how many flows will be there, and in order to let's say chalk out the flow diagram, process flow diagram, that how it will look like if it is. So once that is done, correct, then, and once that is done, and once all the stories, epic stories, and all the, let's say, flows are pretty much finalized, then the technical person will come into picture in order to estimate the scope depending upon the stories, the epics, and the flows. Correct? Because they are the ones who will be looking into, or who will be understanding that how much effort or how much estimation is required depending upon this let's say story, for this story or for this epic. Correct? So this type of differentiation is there between the between the business architect and the system architect roles, to answer your question, during the RFP phases. Correct? Am I clear?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So now to answer your question on the second part of your question, I mean, what if that the business architects are not involved in the RFP phase, and then they are, I mean, involved when the project is won, and now the development is starting. Correct? This was your another question, correct? Sorry, am I audible?
Yeah. 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 Sorry, I wasn't
Yeah.
able to get out of
Okay.
mute. Yeah.
This was your other question, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, there are chances that business architects might not get involved. Let's say there are situations when there are no business architects available, or let's say it doesn't require business architect because the need was not there in let's say a handful of RFPs are there in which business architects do not get involved. But there are also situations, you also need to take this situation into consideration. Let's say I, as a business architect, have worked on the RFP, correct? But it is not necessary that since I have worked on the RFP and the project is won, I will be working as the business architect when the project is won. There might be a scenario that I have worked on the RFP part. You, as a business architect, will be assigned to that project when the project has been won. Correct? There can be scenarios.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, this is pretty normal scenario, right? Real life scenario. So now what will happen? Obviously, there are scenarios like this. So as you, as a business architect, when you will be assigned to this project, you need to go through the documentation very carefully. You need to understand, I mean, you can take help from me because I have worked on the RFP. You need to understand the different documentation that has come up depending upon the RFPs. You need to have multiple workshop sessions, or let's say discovery sessions with the business side from the client, or the client business side, in order to understand the requirement. First, you need to take help from the technology, I mean, sorry, the technical resources, in order to understand even you might need to understand it from the technical resource in order to understand the requirement in a deeper level. And you need to proceed ahead, because in the RFP part, what happens, the RFP part, I mean, there are obviously areas where the business architects need to understand how it will, how the existing process is happening, and depending on that, how the proposed approach will be, and then the user stories, and these are defined, and the project is won. Now, as a business architect, when the project is starting, so the requirement gathering, analysis, and everything will be much on a deeper level, right? Because
Yeah.
based on your requirement gathering and documentation, the development team will be developing the application. Whatever you have provided in the RFPs, what you can do in order to achieve them this application. But when the requirement is actually coming, there might be a deviation, a little bit of, let's say, 5%, 10% deviation from what they requested during the RFP phase, right? So depending on that, you need to refine or have the fresh set of requirement gathering session through multiple workshops, or in Pega we call it DCO sessions, direct capture of objectives, right? So through those sessions, you need to gather those requirements, analyze those requirements, and you need to document it well and provide it, or have a discussion with the development team, the testing team, in order to guide them through those requirements. Correct?
Can
So
I
I
ask
think,
you another question?
yes, yes,
This is
sure.
this was based on you said that this is a no code tool, right?
Right,
Then
right.
what would be the developers doing in Pega project?
Yes. So initially, if you remember, the coding was, let's say, thousand of lines of coding. I mean, it was involved for a complex sort of application, correct?
Mhm.
But in Pega, it's a low code or no code environment application, model driven application development tool. Why I am saying, because the entire application will be is pretty much built on through guided wizards or tools, right, where there is minimal amount of coding is required. Okay, as a business architect also, you can develop a simpler application using their workflow model. Okay, but
Mhm.
there are different studios which will come into picture. I mean, that obviously the development guys will have to put their hands in a bit of development. Yes, and everything cannot be done by a business architect, so that's why there are different studios or different environments. But the way Pega is moving is towards a minimal development tool, where there are very 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 less development is required from the coding perspective, right? And the majority of the, I mean, let's say, the application would be built depending upon the how the workflows or the cases are created. I mean, it's a model driven development. When I will be going through this, then you will be able to understand more, right, why I am calling it as a low code or a model driven development tool, right? But it doesn't require that conventional coding and all, because those are being done, and it provides you with a standard, let's say environment, depending on, based on which the business architects can quickly build a, let's say, smaller case in order to project the client during the DCO sessions, so the requirement gathering sessions. And on top of that, the development and the technical team is there to extensively develop the application using the Pega platform.
Okay, so most of the things are drag and drop.
Right. Most of the things are drag and drop, but that doesn't mean that there is no coding involved, right? It's moving toward that direction, but still there are, obviously, if you want to customize, I mean, Pega provides certain standard, what I would say, I mean, out of the box platforms, right? Let's say when you are working on a healthcare project, right?
Mhm.
So for that, you have the Pega's CLS, I mean, the Life Cycle Foundation platform, right, which already provides you with a drug dictionary, and already provides you with certain, let's say, platform which will help develop on top of that, or help customize on top of the OOTB platform, depending upon the client requirement. So if you are on a banking project, so already Pega is providing with a Pega KYC platform, right? So that it's a vanilla platform, and depending upon the client's requirements, or depending upon the customized requirements, the development team obviously need to put their hands on and develop, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So can we proceed ahead, or still there are something?
Yeah, I'm good enough. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, so now coming quickly to that, what does Pega Business Architects bring to the table? So here are the few of the important things you need to understand, that I mean, that do not fit neatly into either traditional business analyst or business architect roles. Like, but Pega Business Architect needs to carry on. Like, the bridge the gap between IT and business or operations by accelerating the, let's say, increasing the IT and business collaboration, and ensure that Pega is leveraged in the right way alongside any other enterprise technologies. Now, supporting of centralization and formalize the reuse of code. So the business build once, maintain the assets, and use many times. I mean, let's say, what I am saying is like reuse of code, right? In our, let's say, during the previous days, we used to develop different applications and do the same type of coding when it comes to different regions. Let's say, for application, let's say ABC company wants to extend develop an application, and then they want to cater that application to, let's say, Asian countries, the South American region, then the European region and all. So initially what happened is, you used to do multiple times of, I mean, used to develop different applications for different regions, right? But now from the reusability front, right, you can develop a base application and you can just extend those applications with minimal customization to different region depending upon the region specific requirements. So the reusability has increased with Pega. So then there are different, I mean, drive expertise to ensure successful deployment of Pega by eliminating work done in silos. I mean, it's the business architect's role. I mean, Pega business architect's role to ensure that to eliminate the different works done in silos and integrate all within Pega. I mean, when they're providing a solution in collaboration with the technical resources, shared documented best practices and standardized governance models. I mean, this comes under documentation and all, and improve the experience of all the project stakeholders. So these are few of the things which Pega business architects bring to the table. Now, to move ahead with the contents which we will be looking forward as part of the certified Pega business architect, right? So this percentage is, I mean, in the examination, what is the percentage which percentage number of question that comes from this let's say module. So you don't have to look at the percentage now, but just few things we wanted to understand is there are different, I mean, this is a 25 days course, first of all, right? 25 to 30 days. I mean, roughly around 25 days it will take. Pega, the first module is Pega Express methodology. I mean, where we will be looking into the 4 phases of Pega Express delivery and terminologies, right? The discover, prepare, build, and adopt, and what does the business architects do during these phases. Then the benefits and best practices of Pega Express delivery. Then describe the information required to quickly build a Pega application. I mean, there are 3 pillars to it, right? 3 pillars as in the case and workflow management, then the channels and personas that will be involved for that application, and the data and interfaces part. Those are the 3 pillars building the Pega applications, correct? Now, fill the backlog with stories that are ready to be built. I mean, the user story front, and describe the process and benefits of DCO. I mentioned a few minutes back that in Pega, the process, I mean, of capturing those requirements and let's say gathering those requirements and let's say capturing them directly in Pega application. This process and analyzing those requirements, this process entirely comes under the DCO, directly capture objectives, or direct capture of objectives. So that comprises of the Pega Express methodology. From the case management front, it's like designing a case lifecycle. When I say designing a case lifecycle, it's designing the cases, the stages, the case status, the steps and process. So in Pega application, whenever you build an application, right? So in application, let's say a loan application, correct? So I as a customer goes to the bank, or if it's an online loan application, I fill certain form or fill certain details, right? Those details are segregated into personal details, let's say account or financial details, or let's say there are certain address related details, right? So those are the personal details customer fills in, correct? Now, after filling the personal details, those go for a review stage, correct? Someone from the bank will be reviewing those applications, right? Or reviewing those details of the applications. Then they will be going for certain approvals depending upon certain conditions if it is necessary. And then the, let's say, loan will be, let's say, sanctioned for that client, and the customer for the customer, and the customer will be notified via email or SMS, and then there will be a disbursement process. So these are different stages or different steps within a stages, right? Within a particular case, right? So in Pega, we always deal with a case, and the entire, let's say, structure or what I will say, the entire structure can be defined as a workflow model, correct? Because in the traditional business applications, we used to see that there are a lot of individual or siloed applications or different departments involved, right? But Pega has provided a way to collaborate those siloed application and work in a manner in which the business actually thinks or describes their work, right? So when I say a workflow, so in a workflow there are different stages involved. Within those stages there are different steps. So the first stage, if I say in the workflow model, that's why I call it model driven development. Just to take an example of this loan application process, the first stage on on a high level, we may say in the workflow is the application or submit application stage, right? Then the review stage, then the approval stage, and then the let's say loan fulfillment stage, correct? So within this submit application stage, we have different steps that the users perform, right? Whoever will be working on that case for that particular customer, or for that loan application for the customer, they will be performing certain steps, right? Within the application, they need to, they need to fill the application on behalf of the customer depending upon the interaction with the customer. Then they need to they need to, let's say, provide or attach the signature. Then they need to provide or attach certain documents as a proof of let's say address or something, correct? So there are different steps within that stage, right? So that's why we call it a model driven or sort of a workflow development. And in Pega, everything is dependent on a case, or every application, as I mentioned, in a loan application there is a case, right? And the case has got a life cycle, correct? So these case types, actually the case types are like in Pega are abstract model of business transactions, right? It highlights the journey of a life cycle of a business process by defining the workflow model through different stages and steps, which I just mentioned. It will get more clearer when we look into the modules or when we look into a case, right? And an instance of a case is of a specific transaction in the case. So let's say in Pega, the application is developed in such a way that or if we take the online order which we generally do in Amazon or Flipkart, right? So generally I as a user, I log into my Amazon account, correct? And after logging into my Amazon account, I then select those, I browse through those product catalogs, right? And then I select those product catalogs. So then once I select it, then I go to my cart, right? Then after going to my cart, I provide my shipping and billing details. Then after I confirm my cart and do the payment, then those are shipped and the order is finally delivered. So there are different stages, right? But for a customer, each action or each journey is defined by a case type, right? So the case type consists of this journey where the customer will, any customer will come, they will browse the product catalog, they will select the product, they will uh, confirm the payment mode, they will, the product will be shipped depending upon the availability, and the product will be delivered to the customer. So this is the entire journey, and that is depicted by a case type for every customer. Now when I log into my Amazon account, then case for me it's a case. When you log into your account, then for you it's a different case depending upon that case type only. The case type is common across all the customers, that the journey is common, whatever the customer will do, right? Now there are individual cases depending upon the customer who logs in and who selects those products. Like C001 is a case which belongs to me, when the back office users will track what products have been chosen, or whether that products those are chosen are there to be shipped or delivered. So that they will refer C001, which belongs to Arnab. C002 is another case which belongs to, let's say, Menon, correct? So that is how, depending upon the base case type, there are individual cases or individual instance of a specific transaction that happens for each users, correct? So that is how the entire thing, the case management comes into picture. So where we'll be looking into the different stages, the case status, then how the instructions are added, then the SLAs are added through a particular case, because if a case falls, stays in someone's work basket for n number of days, then how, what action needs to be taken, or how we can define that, what will be the deadlines period, or what will be the uh, what action needs to be taken when the deadline is reached and all. Then routing of assignments or cases to different users, whether it will be routed to a single user or whether it will be routed to a group of users, right? That depending upon the configuration, those routing will happen. Then designing an approval process, configuring the correspondence, because I as a customer would like to get notified, right? Depending upon the stage of where my case is, correct? So whether it be, be it be a email correspondence or through a SMS notification, I would like to get notified. So how to configure those correspondences? Then identification of duplicate cases, then optional actions to a workflow. When I say optional or alternate actions, I mean there can be scenarios. I mean it is pretty let's say common that a user, while ordering some products on Amazon, after selecting the products, they cancel those, right? So that is not the conventional flow. The primary flow is you select a product, you confirm the payment, the product gets shipped depending on the availability, and the product is delivered to your home or office. That is the primary flow. Now the optional or the alternate flows can be canceling a product, or let's say you once the product is selected, right, the product is not there to be shipped to you, and then you are notified that this product cannot be shipped. So there are multiple scenarios, right? So these are the optional actions or optional flows. Then automate certain workflow decisions and conditions on a decision step. Automating certain decisions, not every decision or not every action is manual, right? There are certain automated decisions as well. Let's say if the loan application amount is let's say less than 30 lakhs, it will do not require any approval, and the loan will be sanctioned. But if it is more than 30 lakhs, then it will go for an approval step, right? So skip a stage or process. So depending upon the requirement or depending upon the configuration made, a stage can be skipped or a process can be skipped. Just as I mentioned, the approval stage can be skipped if the loan amount is less than a certain amount, right? But if it is more than that amount, then the case will move through the approvers stage, where certain approvers will need to approve the case. Then creating a child case. This is the parent-child case concept. And then there are wait steps. There are different areas where the case need to wait for some time before, so that it can proceed ahead. Why the case will be waiting at that step? Because some other users might need to provide certain decision, right? So let's take an example, like when you were let's say you have applied to an organization, you have cleared the interview. Now there is a background process, background check, right? So the onboarding, let's say the onboarding process or onboarding case for a candidate. So the onboarding case cannot proceed ahead until the background verification happens, right? So the background verification needs to happen. Until that point, the case needs to wait. So there we make use of the wait step functionality. Just let me know if you are able to understand, or I know it's pretty difficult for you to understand on the first day itself that what all these, but I'm trying to help you on a high level that what actually we'll be going through
No, no,
in these modules.
you are actually doing good in, putting out in a layman's term. So it's easy to understand, not, having the technical discussion. So yeah, we are good. Like,
Okay, okay. So now coming to the data and integration part, right? So obviously when we are saying a case, right, there will be certain data, right? See, even if we are entering, the loan applicant's details, the personal details, their address related details, and the correspondence details, and then there are certain documents, and also everything is data, right? So obviously, nowadays you have seen that whenever we are entering, let's say PAN number or Aadhaar number or whatever social security number and all in other countries. So depending upon that, certain details are being fetched, right, or pre-populated on the screen, correct? So those sort of integration, or those sort of I mean, let's say those data are being fetched from a third-party system, depending upon the integrations, right, with those systems, with the application, with the bank's application. Then there are different datas which are entered on behalf of the customer by the bank personnel. So those datas are stored at certain points, right, or certain let's say servers, right? So how those data fields, or how those datas or data types and the relationships between those datas, or what are the system of records that will be referred for those data types, or storing those data types or referring those data types, so those are configured in the, and that will be looking into data and integration. Then identify and create calculated values, then validation of those data, and creating and configuring data validation rules, because it's not only about data, because we need to validate those data, right? I mean, uh, let's say I mean, if you in the email address, let's take a very simple example. The email address that somebody has missed out on that at the rate sign, right? So obviously there should be some sort of validation, and should not let the user to submit, right? So those sort of validation should be there. And then there are different complex business logics as well. I've just taken a simple example. Then capture and present data fields and views, that how the data will be presented, or how the views, when I say views, it's the user views, right? What the user will be seeing in the online application form, whether those will be those fields will be distributed in two columns in a, let's say, two column structure, or where it will be a single column structure where the user will need to do a lot of vertical scroll. So these sort of views and how the fields will be configured. When I say fields, let's say there are two fields, one is dependent on the other. So on selection of the other, when you select, let's say there is a field for marital status, right? So when users will click on unmarried, right, then there will be no additional field for spouse details that will be required, or that will appear in the views or in the application. But when the user will click on married, then an additional field will be appearing in the application, where they need to provide the spouse details. So these sort of fields, and how the views will be presented, will be configured, that can be configured. Security is the manage user and role assignment. So there are different user and role assignments, or that can be managed depending upon which they have restricted access to the application. I mean, not, I mean, business wouldn't want every user to access all the, let's say, all the details of the application, correct? There will be different roles who will be accessing certain applications or certain sections specific to them, correct? So user interface, then there are certain user interface customization which can be provided. Then application development is managing the application development, user stories, feedbacks, and bugs through Pega. We have this integration with Agile Workbench inbuilt into it, into this Pega application or Pega platform, through which the user stories, the feedbacks, and the bugs in show and tell in different demo sessions. Demo sessions are termed and show and tell sessions in Pega terminology. So those feedbacks, bugs are also captured over there along with the user stories. Then there are certain reporting capabilities of Pega, right? So creating business reports and identify the type of reports, using of columns and filters that are, I mean, you use filters and reports to shrink the number of or limit the number of data, right? That is displayed in the screen. So how the filters are applied and all. Then there is mobilities, how the mobile app channels and use of Pega mobile preview, how this Pega application can be used in the mobile view or from the mobile channel, right? So that will also be that will also be discussed over here. So these are the overall course contents that are, I mean, there are a lot of things, but this is the overall on a high level that what we need to look into for the certification. Okay, and this is based on the latest version of Pega. I mean, there are changes to the different versions. I mean, let's say every 3-4 months or every 5-6 months, the version keeps on. Currently, it's going on Pega 8.6, Certified Business Architect. So we'll be going to the latest version of this certification course. So now, as I was mentioning, just to give you a few highlights, like before I mean, today I won't be entering into the details of these modules, but just to give you a highlight, like what is BPM and what is Pega and all. I have already discussed, but let's look into it one more time. So business process management, or BPM, is a methodology to manage process and workflows in organization. Is basically helps in automate the process, right, or automate work that is necessary to achieve a specific outcome. So the goal of BPM is to increase the efficiency, performance, and agility in the day-to-day operations of a business. And it has been widely adopted by organizations, and which is essential for any enterprise business that wants to be competitive in today's market. For example, the world's leading airlines utilize BPM to manage flight schedules and terminal operations, right? So as I mentioned, that it's the methodology to manage the process and workflows in an organization. This workflow model is very important when it has come. I mean, see, initially the applications, or it was not portrayed in the form that how the business users think, because and it becomes pretty difficult for the business users to use the application, correct? But now, since Pega has provided a way to collaborate these siloed applications and develop an application in a manner in which actually business users think and describe their work, like say through different case journeys or through different workflow models. So it helps in increasing the efficiency, performance, and the agility in day-to-day operations of the business. And also it helps in uh, managing the business in a much more simpler way, right? More can be done in a simpler way. That is how the BPM has helped. So now, moving into Pega. So Pega is a BPM tool which supports low code model driven application development, as I mentioned earlier also. So the Pega platform enables business users to work together with IT to configure applications, because since this Pega platform works on this workflow model, and it's a more of a visual driven or visual tool, where the users can, I mean, do a lot of things with guided use wizards, or a wizard based model. So that's why it has also helped the business user or the citizen developers as in non-technical users, to work on these visual tools instead of writing those codes.
So, Arnab, sorry to cut you there. Uh,
Mhm.
so, because you were emphasizing on visual tools and all that, right? Because these
Correct.
things, we can probably learn this, even day one of the class. Is it possible for you to actually log in and show like how Pega system looks?
Mm, yeah, let me check. There is a case type. See, there are different studios, I mean, involved. So I'll not go into these studios now. So let me look into this. If I can show you the workflow model. Yeah. So if you see over here, this is a case life cycle for auto loan, right? Where I mean, these are stages: collect, review, approve. So these are the different stages within which there are process: collect, auto reject, notify, then this manual review, and these are the steps: application info, income info, vehicle info, right? So you do not have to. I mean, see, when you are adding steps, right, it automatically builds a flow in the backend, correct? Uh, how will I show you from this?
Like, no, is there a schema for this each flow?
Let me show you this video. Schema as in
Like the visual representation of the
uh,
diagrams, like
right,
the
right, right, right.
relationships and all that.
Correct. So it's a flow that is already, I mean, let me show you that. Mm, yeah. See, whenever you click this applicant info, right, this is a step, correct? So
Hmm.
within this collect stage, first you click capture the applicant's information, then their income information, the vehicle information. So instead of writing those huge codes, correct? So you are adding steps over here, right? And then you can configure the view from this. Okay. So
Okay.
yeah, when you configure the view, you saying how which fields you want to add. So see, the thing is that to reduce the amount of coding, right? So it provides you, depending upon the platform or the OOTB capability, it provides you with certain fields, and on top of that you can add fields over here also, and then you can select those fields, it will appear over here, and it's all a drop down whether you want to add, I mean, let's say what will be it will be a view field, or it will be a read only field only, or it can be editable and all. So this is what I was trying to, I mean, say that everything is, I mean, a minimal amount of coding is involved. It's all sort of a guided wizard sort of approach, or a visual tool through which this can be configured. I'm just helping with a simple example. I mean, there are a lot of complex examples as well. So everything is, if you see, it's on this visual tool instead of writing these codes earlier for a field and to define it, these fields, whether it's a read only or whether it can be editable, right? So you have to do a lot of coding involved, right? Raw coding. But over here, if you see, there are minimal coding. I mean, in fact, there is no coding only. You just select the field and you just select the relationship, and you just select the options that whether it will be read only and not, right? And those will be available in your application. So once you define those fields over here, correct?
Hmm.
Now, if I can go to the preview application, so then there are different income info, vehicle info, loan info. You can add more steps to it. And then once this collection is done, then the case moves to the review stage where the whatever the information is entered, those are reviewed, and after the review, then there is the underwriting step. And once it is done, everything is reviewed and everything is okay, then it goes to the approval part. Correct. So this is how the flow is for a particular case. And this is the workflow, I would say, workflow model. Okay. So now if you preview the application, depending upon the configuration that is made, let me create a new case for a particular customer. See over here, this applicant first name, last name, age, then there's the contact details, the address details, right? So these are then the applicant info. Remember, within that collect stage, you had seen the applicant info, the income info, the vehicle info, and
Yes.
loan info, correct? So
Yeah.
if you see over here, every details that was configured, I mean the fields and all, so those are appearing over here, correct? But those I haven't done any coding. I haven't entered any screen where you had seen any coding or something, correct? Now on top of these, if some customization is required, let's say if this model, right? Let's say if this model is let's say if there is for a specific model, you need to show something, or depending upon that, then certain customizations, I mean that again depends upon the business requirements, right? I mean we generally provide a vanilla model, and on top of that, depending upon the customizations, the minimal amount of coding, that there comes the role of a system architect, otherwise they wouldn't have been required, right? But what I was trying to say is that it has got minimal coding in Pega. I mean, that's the motto, that to reduce the amount of coding and to make it more sort of a visual approach, right? So that it becomes easier for, I mean, even the non-technical person to quickly build a sort of case and showcase to the client during the requirement gathering or requirement discussion phase. Because the Pega do provide the capability of capturing, gathering and capturing the requirements directly in the Pega platform itself, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So Right. Then I think we are past our time. So, I mean, this is all we discussed, right? Role of a business architect in Pega and why CPBA is required. I mean, to enroll a resource in Pega projects and allow business architects to learn and apply Pega capabilities in Pega projects. Because unless you are going through the CPBA course and you are not aware about the Pega projects, then in the client requirement discussion, correct? Then how would you project or highlight the Pega capabilities when they will be asking for a certain requirement, right? In terms of solution approach or proposed approach. So allow the business architects to get well versed with the Pega terminologies and concepts, then conduct the DCO sessions, gathering of requirements, analyzing them more flexibly in alignment with Pega, and engage in customer workshops more efficiently. So these are certain things or certain reasons why the CPBA course, I mean, is required. And moreover, I mean, in any of the organization, whenever you will be working in a Pega project, you have to have, I mean, get yourself Pega certified. So yeah. So that was all. That was a quick deck which I prepared for today's demo session, and I think I've gone into areas which will be pretty difficult for you to understand on the very first day of the session, but yeah, still I tried to keep it in as simple as possible.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. So now once we finish the CPBA, right? Like say
Correct.
we do this course, we do our
Hmm.
certification, and we get
Right.
the certification, then we start working in a project. Say 1 year or 6 months or 2 years we work. What would be our next, career growth in this after
Okay.
BPP?
Okay. So that again comes in line with your organizational, I mean, role definition, I would say, because for a business architect, I mean, CPBA needs to be taken by a business architect who will be working in Pega projects. Now, that business architect can be a junior business architect. I mean, if your organization says like first level is consultant, then senior consultant, then let's say manager level, that is the organization role, right? But when it comes to the business architect sort of designation or role, it's the business architect, then the senior business architect, then the lead business architect, then the principal business architect, correct? So depending upon each business architect role, I mean, be it from the junior level to the topmost, I mean, senior level, you have to have yourself Pega certified, and the certified Pega business architect certification if you are engaged and enrolled in a Pega project, right? And after this CPBA, you can also try out, I mean, those are different areas. Then there is marketing certified Pega marketing, I mean, the certification, or a decision consultant certification. So those are different areas.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Arnav.
Okay, so I think we are over time by 6 minutes. So anyone has any question, or we can end today's session?
No, I think we are good.
Okay, then thank you all for joining today's session.
All right. Thank you, Arnav. Thanks for your time and thanks for
Thanks,
letting me
Arnav.
know.
Sure. Same to you. Have a good day. Bye bye.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.